Hello, good people, and welcome to the Brownsville Minute. You have been missed. I have missed you all, but we are back for a special edition. My name is Anita Pierce, and I hope that you're doing well. I hope that you're doing wonderful. I'm excited to be back in this space for this special event. Welcome to the Brownsville Minute. This show is dedicated to elevating the voices of the community. Our goal is to center our conversations in love. Our goal is to center our conversations in unity. And we're about to do something really wonderful tonight. I'm still bubbling in excitement because you're not going to see a lot of me this evening. But before I introduce the entire segment, let me just give you a little tidbit. So it's me, I'm Anita, the founder of 11375. Our organization is your business strategist that helps support small business, large businesses with alignment of mission, alignment of goals, alignment of organization, capacity building. So please feel free to connect with us if you are looking for a number of different services related to small businesses, and I'll be sure to be and my team will be able to help you out to get to your next level. Today's segment is a special edition that is created by a few courageous young adults. Let me repeat that. A few courageous young adults. I am bubbling with joy because these are our future leaders. And with all that is happening now, it is, I believe, our responsibility as a community, as loving parents, to be able to support young people where they are, and especially during this pandemic and all that's happening now. It is really important for us to be able to support them on this journey. Over the past 7 weeks, I've had the opportunity to be able to meet virtually with these young folks, and we've talked about a number of different topics, namely entrepreneurship as a viable career option, also about financial literacy, ensuring that we are, being a little bit more responsible and accountable with our financial resources, in addition to the economy as a whole. And so this project is really an opportunity for them to be able to gain different skill sets. And I said, why not allow them to do what is being done all over, but in a more productive way that they can leverage this experience to perhaps, host their own broadcasts or others. So this is the Brownsville Minute, and we are going to be having a wonderful framework that is going to be specifically talking about entrepreneurship and also the economy. So I am excited to be able to present a conversation. The first segment will be specifically about the economy, its impacts, how we can connect the dots as individuals of color, how we can definitely think about, what we're really doing with our money, how are we being supportive, cooperative economics, those things are really what we're going to unpack. And I'm super excited to be able to present my team. So we had 2 teams. One was Team Entrepreneurship that included Miss Naima, Lonnie, and also Kishana. And then we had Team Economy that included Maurice, Rashana, and also Nasir. So today we are going to have 2 of our courageous, wonderful young leaders who are going to be moderating these sessions today. So I hope that you come with a lot of questions for the speakers. I hope that you really encourage these young folks because it took a lot of courage to get them to do this. So welcome to the Brownsville Minute. I would like to introduce our first moderator for the evening, Miss Key. Who am I looking at? Oh, sorry. Hey, Rashana, I'm sorry. So Rashana is going to introduce our first panel. which is going to be on the economy. So, Rashana, I'm going to hide and I'm going to say, take it away. Congratulations.
Welcome all to who are watching this broadcast. My name is Rashana Jackman, and I'm currently a student at the College of Staten Island, and I'm also have a passion in helping young adults like myself to succeed in all areas of life. So on tonight's broadcast, we will have Mr. Engy Lamour as a guest speaker on our topic of economy.
Thank you, Rashana. Thank you, everyone. Engy Lamour here. And just to give you a quick background on myself, like some of you, I grew up in Brownsville, moved to East Flatbush, went to high school in Bed-Stuy, ultimately got a degree at Brandeis University in economics and sociology. Subsequent to that, I received my MBA from Columbia University. And as it currently stands, I'm a human capital consultant professional where I focus and work with some of the top hedge funds and private equity firms around. It's my pleasure to be here today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Lamour. To begin this segment, I'm going to start off by asking you a few questions on the topic of economy.
Great. Fire away.
So to begin my segment, I'm going to start with a quote from August 13, 2019 from McKinsey & Company. The quote is, "The economic impact of closing the racial wealth gap. To help the economy, we have to develop a new framework to capture the key factors that contribute to the wealth gap. There are a few dimensions that are components of wealth generation for a family. One is community, family wealth, family income, and family savings. From the community context, communities with high economic activity and rich social networks tend to produce more affluent families and contain assets such as homes and business that are valued more highly. Conversely, communities that lack economic activity and connection to opportunities tend to perform poorly." Do you agree with this statement?
I definitely do, especially for our community. I think what a lot of us fail to realize is we won't break the generational curses and cycles unless we figure out ways to achieve economic equality. And the reason I say that is because the McKinsey report goes into further detail how the wealth gap is continuing to further expand between our white counterparts and versus us. And the way that our counterparts have accumulated wealth and knowledge is by, education and going to college. And unfortunately, for a lot of people in our communities, going to college and thinking about that debt is something that holds us back. And the way our counterparts have done it, their families who have, invested in homes and have built up the equity, and they develop those social networks that continue to foster even more economic wealth down the line to their children and children's children and so forth and so on. Where I feel like our community, hasn't done that, hasn't built the nest egg to have that wealth accumulated that they can pass on to their children.
By closing the racial wealth gap, do you agree that the GDP would improve our overall economic conditions?
Certainly. I think, in the 60s, we had civil rights. I think we're at an inflection point where we need to start focusing on civil rights, where we take ownership of our own economy and equity. I think once we realize that, we could build our own businesses, we should be investing in the markets, we should be investing in our homes. That's the way that we're going to, afford our kids a better education and more knowledge to have seats at the table that makes those decisions that affects our communities. There's so many decisions that are being made without people like us at the table. And I think the only way you're going to bridge that gap is by, one, investing in yourselves and your families, by entrepreneurship, by closing that GDP gap where we're keeping the money in our own communities.
So on the topic of young adults, do you believe that young people should participate in the economic market?
Absolutely. I think there hasn't been a better time than now. With the free information of the internet, the ability to start businesses, from your living room or from your basement. Our counterparts have been taking advantage of this for years. We look at the ways that Mark Zuckerberg or Evan Spiegel started Snapchat or Facebook. These were young people that took it upon themselves to create an industry that didn't exist. So I think as young adults, you guys have the crystal ball into the next trend of what's coming around the corner. There's a huge economic power in your hands that we're not addressing right now. especially of people of color. We take hip hop, for example, and how that became a global multi-billion-dollar business.
To stay on the same topic of young adults, do you believe that young people should start to change their money mentality? Because I feel that me as a young person, I haven't been taking much like responsibility. I would say starting from high school, I would say for myself that I wouldn't really think about the economy and being part of the economy. But now as I get older, I start to understand that not everything that I see is spend, spend, spend. And at a certain time, you have to put aside what your wants is and what your needs is. So do you think that young people should start to change their money mentality, and how do they spend money, and how should they think about money positively?
Absolutely. I mean, you don't need to go get the biggest economics book to understand, like, the relationship with money, and understand but for me, like, I was fortunate to have a grandma that always said, if you make $1, save 10 cents, save 20 cents, things like that. Compound interest is the biggest tool in life in terms of like making money, where your money's growing for you. I think as young individuals, we need to take a step back and understand what's the difference between an asset and a liability. The analogy I would use, right? If you go into a store with, and you want to buy, I don't know, a pair of sneakers, it's cost you $100. The minute you leave that store, those sneakers are now worth like $75? So imagine that, right? Whereas if I should be thinking like, wait, what can I invest in? How about I invest in multiple sneakers and say, if I buy 3, I keep 1 and I sell 2 at a 20% markup. So instead of like, being $25 down and I can't resell it, now I'm 20% up. So I think trying to understand, like, the difference between asset and liability, things that are going to keep creating money for you down the line versus things that create no value down the line. I think once you start understanding the difference between those two things, it's going to be like, a game changer, even as young as 12 years old.
And to go into our next question, I also believe that financial literacy also plays a big role in education, because I feel like a lot of young people, they don't know where to go to learn that financial literacy and learning how to save, banking, checking, credit, and all those information. So do you also believe that education also plays a big role in young adults learning about the economy and financial literacy?
100%. I have a quote that I like to impart on my nieces and nephews. Knowledge is free, ignorance is expensive. I think we're at an age where there's a tremendous amount of information about financial literacy, especially catered to young individuals. From apps to things like Motley Fool, you can understand how the stock market works, and it's very interesting. From Acorn to like Robinhood. When I was growing up, I literally had to check out a book and to understand personal finance and go through that and try to figure out like what I was doing. But there's tons of resources out there that are free that you can slowly start to develop good habits and understand, what's compound interest. Why is it important to start as early as possible, and what compound interest can do for you 10 years from now, 20 years from now. And the basic example is if you invest $1, that dollar is returning 10%. And then every year after that, you're going to get 10% of that $1.10, and so on and so forth. So it keeps growing. That's the basic of compound interest. And that's one personal finance lesson I've learned early on in life about saving and how your money can work for you.
What do you think is the biggest challenge or roadblock in the economy right now?
Oh, where do we start? I think, the global pandemic is one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with right now. I think, having, this two-party system where people can't agree on what direction the world needs to go politically or, economically. But as an individual, I don't see these things as roadblocks. As an individual, you should see opportunities, where people can't seem to agree or consensus. There's a void, there's a gap that should be filled by you as an individual. And I think if people take the time to understand what's going on around them within their community, it'll be great. That's the way I think like we could overcome the roadblocks that are perceived roadblocks.
To go back to the pandemic, this pandemic has caused a lot of economic hardships for many people in their personal and business finances. And I noticed that a lot of people, some people found ways in which they can make money and help the economy and help their own personal finances. So during the pandemic, did you find anything that can help you, or did you learn or develop something, a new skill that you believe that you can help with yourself personally or your new business or your business?
Yes, I mean it's the first. I'm a person that has I can't sit down. I have a mild case of ADD, so the pandemic caused me to read a lot. And even at my age, I'm still reading tons of financial books. And one of the most recent books I read, I might screw up the title, is Wealth Choices by African Americans. And I thought that was a great book for me to read, because I had nothing to do because I had to sit at home. And it kind of went through the history of African Americans who had started businesses and gave the statistics about how taking that risk to be their own boss has paid off more dividends as opposed if they had decided to stay and work for someone. So just rereading things like that, just getting in tune, what do I really want to do with myself and my life? So I think that knowledge base, me, just going back and listening to podcasts about how folks started businesses, and you'll be surprised to realize most of the businesses that were started during the last financial crisis are the biggest businesses now. From Snapchat to Betterment, those are businesses started during a financial crisis. So back to what I was saying about, yes, we're going through a difficult time right now, and there are roadblocks, but I think if certain people will take advantage and find voids to fill and become very successful. So to sum it up, I guess what I've learned during this global pandemic is resiliency. And when there are roadblocks, what was the old adage, like when God shuts the window, go through the back door or something like that. So I think the pandemic showed me resiliency and the ability to continue to find knowledge and educate myself in things that I didn't realize that were out there.
One thing I want to go back and touch on is about the education. Like when it comes to social media, most of us, all of us have some kind of social media, some kind of Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. I feel like there are some young people that don't know the amount of power that's in social media that they can use for themselves, that can work for the economy. I feel like there's also a lot of mental setbacks for some, because a lot of young people don't feel like they have the right mentors and the right people behind them and the right supporters to back them and to show them that this is what you want to do, start a business, opening a business. How can you get the resources to do so? How can you get the right steps to filling out your application and all those stuff? So do you believe that mentorship plays a big role in becoming who you are and becoming an entrepreneur in total?
So I'll answer the second part of your question first, and just go a little bit more into my background, right? Like I said, I'm a kid that grew up in Brooklyn, went to school in Bed-Stuy when it wasn't what it is today. So there were, elements that I grew up around that I could have gone the wrong way. But even as young as in the 7th grade, 8th grade, I made a commitment to myself saying I'm going to go to Wall Street. And I ended up getting my first internship at 15 on Wall Street. And the reason I was able to do that is because I was fearless in terms of asking people that I admired in my community, teachers, and said, hey, I want to do this. How do I do this? And if they didn't have the answer right away, they would direct me and say, you should go check out this book and read about this person. I just kept doing that over and over until I got the answer that I wanted. So I think mentorship is 100%. You need that. It's like having a basketball coach or a strength training coach. Like you need people in your corner, that could see the entire court for you and kind of help guide you and navigate you. And I think the number one thing is not to be scared. You should have a plan, at least a sketch of a plan. Okay, I want to be this. I admire this person. And you have the best thing in being a young person, because most people will take that call. If they're not, complete bad people, they will spend the time. If they see someone that's genuinely interested in learning about the industry, learning about entrepreneurship, or something that they can impart wisdom on. So I think mentorship is 100% the right way to go about, trying to develop yourself, your social network, and things like that, and get into that ultimate goal, whether it's applying for a business loan, applying for college, applying for graduate school. Mentors will always serve you. I use mentors to this day. The first part of the question was with regards to young people understanding and harnessing the power of social media. I guess I fall in the old people category, but I think there's a tremendous power in social media. We don't realize that we're giving away a lot of free content to advertisers for free. And the minute we realize that the content we're pushing out there, somebody else is getting paid off of that. We're in a time where, with you doing this right now, right? Let's say you get 100,000, a million people to watch what you're doing. You can charge advertisers to sponsor with you. So just understand like the mechanics behind the scenes and not just like being a content consumer, but really understand the mechanism, like the machine that you're feeding that you're not getting paid for. I think it starts with that. Like, how does Facebook make money? How does Google make money? Anytime you're getting something for free, you got to ask yourself, what are they getting from me that I don't understand? So.
Yeah, I totally agree, because sometimes we use services and we don't really know like how they're making money off of this, and it's free, when in reality they are making much, much more than what we think that they're making.
Exactly. Just to quote
Mr.
my grandmother
Lamour, I have one last final question before we wrap up our segment, and that question is: how important it is to you to believe that accumulating generational wealth will impact the economy of Black and Brown communities?
Just circling back to what I said before, I think there's a huge, tremendous power in the freedom of your own economics, of being a captain of your own destiny. If I save the right amount of money, I know I can go open up my own business, and then I know like my children will be good to choose to do whatever they want to do, go to whatever college they want to do, and give back the right way. I know for me and my wife, like, right now we're building wealth through real estate. We know there's a freedom that comes with that, knowing that, when we retire at 65, we're not waiting out for a social security check or anything like that. We know that we've accumulated wealth, we've accumulated assets that's going to continue to work for us even after we retire and leave our jobs or leave our businesses. And our children will be taken care of, because now they can go to the best schools or be part of that social network and capital that can, catapult them to the next professional career that they choose to do. I think for us, like, the more debt we take on, the less freedom we have. So if you could free yourself from financial slavery and be your own boss and have the economic power to move where you want to move, that's the ultimate goal, right? And if we do this as a people, we're supporting one another, we're supporting each other's businesses, we're supporting each other, we're elevating every one of us, And again,
financial literacy leads to the road of financial freedom. That's what I just got.
Perfect. Hashtag that.
Yes. Financial freedom on the road to financial freedom. So right now, I'm going to allow for any Q&A from the audience for the next 5 to 10 minutes.
So, hey, I'm back, and I wanted to thank you for a very fruitful question and answer time, specifically about the economy. So I do have a couple of questions that came in, and I wanted to do a follow-up. It's actually a follow-up about the racial wealth gap, right? So you talked about the racial wealth gap, and also about your network, your social network. So I wanted to expand on the topic of, really understanding the connecting of the dots of your social network. You want to expand on that, Mr. Lamour?
Yeah. So I'm trying to find the best example of this. I think we talked about this a few days ago about environments or communities that have been blighted, and the whole notion and concept of buying back the block.
Mm-hmm.
And we talked about, this new, policy about opportunity zones in real estate. And opportunity zone, just pure and simple, is a real estate policy that's created where the blighted communities, people can invest in these communities, and they'll be tax-free for 10 years as long as they stay in that community and build in those communities. Now, it's great for us, right? If we could raise the capital and say, we are going to buy these brownstones in Bed-Stuy, but what's happening is we're not the ones with the capital to buy these places and fix them up. So when I talk about our social network, our creating our own wealth, imagine if the person you sat in school with that looked like you was able to raise that $1 million to buy those buildings in your communities and renovate them and then rent them to the people that live in those communities. And you will get the benefit and keep the money in our community. I think right now, one of the biggest issues that, as the pandemic and things have resurfaced, is the fact that as Black individuals, we don't have access to the capital. That's why I don't see a lot of businesses yet, because we can't get the same capital that our counterparts can get. You know, the folks that grew up in certain neighborhoods, grew up in certain schools, they have the string of friends that can say, hey, we'll chip in $100,000 here, and you raise that $1 million and buy that building, and you'll disperse the proceeds. But we don't have that right now.
Well, we do have it, and we're buying the wrong thing. We're not prioritizing, you know, the things that we should be taking care of within our community. Look, I'll say it, you know, there was a time when, you know, I would just, because I come from financial services as well, and I would just go, you know, spend my little money, my bonuses, and I'm going shopping, buying the highest, and I didn't have any assets. I did not. And one of the things that, you know, as I've gotten older, and I'm not that old, you know, considering, you know, most folks think, you know, I'm not that old, but I did not.
You're an 80s baby.
No, I am. I am, you know, one of those folks who did not really understand all of what I know now. So I wound up, you know, buying property later on in life. Had I, you know, really taken the time to really think about what you're speaking about and buying the block, you know, early on when we had the big bonuses, because we had a lot of coins coming in, then, you know, things would be a little bit different. But that would not, and still does not mean that we cannot do it. We just have to reprioritize some of the things that we are doing now with our resources.
Anita, don't feel too bad. Even Jay-Z said this, right? He could have bought that building in Dumbo for $1 million. Now it's $25 million. How does he feel? Dumbo.
So I am looking at some questions, and I'm actually going to post it onto the screen and read it. This question is specifically to Rashana from Christine Levy. She says, Rashana, how do you think that we should encourage our younger community members to invest locally and create generational wealth for themselves? Do you see an opportunity in your social networks? So this one specifically is for Rashana.
I would say that first, I feel like first it should begin with information, with education first, because a lot of young people they have money, from friends, family, work, anywhere. They will just spend. So I feel like having the education or having the knowledge of knowing what is financial literacy, what does the economy mean, how does it affect you. So I feel like the first thing, it should be education and knowledge, so them to understand, like, how can this affect me and my family? How can I start building generational wealth for my family if I do certain things? I would say in my social network, yes, I do see that there's an opportunity for me to take place in the economy, and I do see myself building generational wealth. So overall, I would say that first it begins with knowledge and understanding what is going on in the economy, and how do we as young adults, how do we see ourselves there?
And I'm going to ask a follow, and thank you, Rashana, for asking us a second if there's any more questions. Mr. Lamour, I'm going to ask one more question about really understanding and unpacking the idea, because you started to touch on it about cooperative economics. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to see if you would be willing to unpack that a little bit more about us really going into depth and, you know, making sure that we are supporting other and doing things collectively as a unit within our communities.
Right. You know, I think about this with my 3 best friends from high school, and you know, we always had this idea since college about pooling our capital together to make investments. You know, we had a whole name for this. We're going to call this, you know, we'll start with $10,000, like all 3 of our money, and get a track record. And then we wanted to open up a fund where we'll add, you know, our cousins, our aunts and uncles, and things like that. And for whatever reason, we never did it. But that's a perfect example of, you know, you have a community of folks that, you know, are very like-minded. You know, we want to follow the stock market, and we could invest together. On the other side of that, something more tangible is going back to the whole concept of real estate. I actually do like real estate now. I haven't gone to like buy my first house this year. Is if you, let's say you want to buy a building or whatever, these simple numbers for $100, and your three friends together, it's going to cost you 20% down to buy this building, and you don't have the $20 by yourself. You should pool that money together and come up with the 20% deposit and buy that building together and make the necessary repairs and investments and then rent it out. And that will provide you cash flow for the year that you could reinvest and buy more buildings. That's a perfect example of how together, when one person doesn't have the entire capital, you pull it together and then build this business of real estate and just keep reinvesting the proceeds that you make. And before time, you'll have 10 buildings with, 10 different free cash flows that you could keep reinvesting in your neighborhood and do other things. Was that what you're looking for, Anita?
Of course, then. Yes, I just wanted to expand, because most of the time we think that we can't, do and build with one another. I've been reading a lot about, areas within Baltimore, Detroit, Washington, D.C., parts of North and South Carolina, where individuals are doing that, pooling their resources together to be able to build and to create, generational wealth. Almost like we're getting back our 40 acres and a mule, something like that.
And it's not just that. With this new, economy, there's a million different things people can do. It's about finding a void or a need that hasn't been met. With technology, like, I don't know, take the nurses' aid, business in Brooklyn. Like, my grandma was a nurse's aide. Like, has that been disrupted yet? Can there be an app that like disrupts that business? Or you have a friend that's a great talented artist, whether it's art, fashion, and you're a better salesperson and you understand marketing schemes and business. Like, that's another version of pooling resources. There's one person that can be like the artist or the main focal point, but then you're the behind the scenes person, like running the numbers, running sales and marketing. I think what we need to understand, there's a number of needs that haven't been met out there. We just have to figure out what the void is that someone's not filling for our own community. The nurses' aid thing was just one example. Like, I don't know if there's an app that can track when they come, like, are they taking care of my grandmother and stuff like that. I think we lost Anita. We're just giving Anita a few more seconds to come back to us. I think I overwhelmed her with my answer. She needs to take a break.
So, Mr. Lamour, are there any final thoughts to wrap up our segment?
Yeah, I think the key takeaways I would impart, even from my experience, my background, is number one, it's all about being fearless and relentless about your pursuits. Like, having a vision of what you want to do. It doesn't have to be perfect, but having that vision and the audacity, to go out and find information, find the people that you want to be like, and how do they get there? Read the books, download the podcast. Like I said, there's no shortcuts. And as long as you have that vision, just be relentless. Oftentimes, when you have an idea, it'll be a lonely road to start because a lot of people won't see what you see, won't see your vision. When your vision is clear as day, you'll hear from friends, you'll hear from family, but you got to be relentless. You got to take the no's and just seek out the knowledge. I'm pretty sure what you've done, someone's done it, in a different shape, form, or fashion, and just use their blueprint and adopt it to your own way of doing things.
And I will also add on and say that it's also about the people that you surround yourself with that will support you in your vision. And that's also people that's in the field with your vision also. And because, like I always said, like when I saw the meme on Instagram that they work is your network. So your people that you have in your close circle is the people that's going to get you to where you are, the right people if you surround yourself with. Thank you so much, Mr. Lamour, for your time. And right now, we're going to pass it over to Miss Anita to introduce Naima.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So I'm back. I apologize. We had a little interruption where I am with the wind and the service. So I do apologize on my end. I want to, continue the conversation and bring on our next segment, which will be with which is a focus on entrepreneurship. So I want to bring on our two moderators, Kishana and also Rashana, also Mr. Gordon Jackson, who will pretty much describe his business, who he is, and be able to focus in on entrepreneurship and his journey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Kishana. I'm currently a student at SUNY Brockport. During this segment, we will talk about what being an entrepreneur is and why is it important and how it impacts our local economy, money management, and to give back to our communities. Here on the broadcast, we have Mr. Gordon Jackson. He is the owner of the Yellow Block Bed and Breakfast and president of Yellow Block Community Development Group.
Thank you, Kishana.
So you could start off by just.
Thanks, Kishana, and thanks, Rashana, for having me on the Brownsville Minute. I'm excited to be on the platform. I, like you, I'm a SUNY graduate. I know you're in SUNY Brockport now, so I am a little bit about myself. I actually attended SUNY New Paltz, and I went to Binghamton University as well, so I'm very fond of the SUNY system and what it's done for our family. A little bit about myself. I'm a father of 3 sons, and we started the Yellow Block Bed and Breakfast, which is a bed and breakfast in Brooklyn, back in 2015. It's a family-run business, and we primarily provide short-term housing for guests who want to come into New York City. So you might hear about platforms like Airbnb and HomeAway and what the impact of Airbnb has done on the housing market. But we were a business that grew from that segment of the need in the city for short-term housing. You'd also talked a little about Yellow Block Community Development Group. One of the things that we had found with our success was that we wanted to know how we could give back and how could we use the platform to share our story and to share our experiences with other people, and to try to figure out how we could not just be in the business, in the community doing business, but how do you be a socially responsible business to make sure you're giving back to the communities that you live and work in. So we launched Yellow Block Community Development Group solely with the purpose of trying to figure out how do we create employment assistance, housing support, and other things that we can do to help bridge the gap that many families in Brooklyn have, or many families in the United States are experiencing because of the financial gap. So that's really what we're about. And my three sons help support me to operate the business, and they helped me with the non-for-profit because I wanted them to understand and appreciate the importance that if you're going to do business, you have to figure out how to be socially responsible and to give back to the communities that you live and work in. So that's kind of it.
Okay, so how did the idea for your business come about?
Yeah, so I think Engy had talked a little bit about this when he had spoke before about having a passion, right? I think for me, the start of the business was a little bit different than some businesses because it was out of pure necessity. So I bought this house back in 2001 in Brooklyn, and back then you could buy a house, which I thought was still expensive by my account, but it was more affordable then than it is today. It was realistic. Today, it almost seems impossible to save up enough money to buy a home in New York City. But so my dream and goal always from growing up was I wanted to have a house one day. I didn't know how to fix a house. I didn't know how to paint a house. I didn't know how to repair things. But I knew because we grew up and we didn't have everything that I thought I had wanted when I got older. I said, well, when I get older, I want to make sure that I can own a home. So back in 2001, 1 month before September 11th, some of you probably weren't even born yet then, I bought this house in Brooklyn for $300,000, which at the time I was like, I didn't have $300,000. I didn't have $200,000. I didn't have $100,000. But if I could find a bank that was crazy enough to loan me the money, then I was going to buy this house. So they told me I had to have 3%. So I had to have $9,000 to buy this home. And I was able to buy this house. So had the house from 2001 until about 2015. So for those 13 or 14 years, the house had, it had paid for itself. I had tenants, things were going okay. And then unfortunately, I started going through a divorce. Life can throw curveballs at you, but you have to be ready for that and be nimble to be able to make the change and the adjustment. And I said, I have to earn more money. So I said, well, you know what, if I'm renting this house out for rooms and I'm renting out apartments for 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, what if I broke that down to a day? Because I've always been fond of numbers and I always wanted to calculate, well, if I could get $30 a day per room or $40 a day per room instead of, $1,100 a month for the apartment, could I theoretically do better? And when I said, well, if there's 2 rooms on 1 floor and I get $40 a month for 1 room at $30 a night, that's $1,200 times 2 is $2,400. I must do better by renting out rooms instead of renting out apartments. Because we know in New York City, the housing demand was only getting greater. So more people needed a place to live. So I decided I'm gonna do rooms. And I said, well, I put it up on Craigslist. Back then, Craigslist was very active. You could rent things safely on Craigslist. And my first person booked for $30 a night for 28 days or 29 days. So I made $900 on 1 room. She came in, she paid, she stayed. She actually gave birth to her twin. She was a lady from Florida. And I made my money. So that was kind of my litmus test to decide whether or not I could do it. But just to dial back a little bit, when I was a little bit younger, a lot younger, I lived upstate New York, and I had worked in some of the hotels up in the Catskills. So I had already washed dishes, waited on tables, bus tables. I had worked in movie theaters when I was younger. So I already had some level of customer service experience, and I knew how to speak to people in a way to allow them to understand that I was concerned about what they needed to make sure it was a good customer service experience. So I took the work that I did when I was younger, combined with the fact that I was broke and I needed to figure out how to hold on to this house, and that my lifestyle was changing, and that my family was taking a different direction. So I was going to need to earn more money to still be supportive of my family, even though it was going in a direction that, that many would not want it to have gone into. So that's really what forced me to say, I have to try a different hustle. I think, I'm not sure if Engy had mentioned this, but he had so many good points when he spoke. Sometimes our business idea is right in front of us. We think we have to go out and find it. But I think a lot of times it can be in front of us. It's intrinsic. It can be already within us, but we have to figure out how to monetize it and develop it. So I had the house. So I had the most important thing, a place to do business. I had the keys. I didn't have to ask anybody for that. I already knew what the costs associated with running this property were. I just needed to figure out the easiest part, which was to get it to make more money. So I think if you look at yourself, or if we look at ourselves, we are the most valuable asset that we bring to any business. But to figure out how to monetize ourselves or to recreate ourselves so that we can be more profitable, if that kind of makes sense. So in this case, that's what I did with the house. I had the house, I owned the house, or I don't know if I owned it, me and the bank owned it because I was paying for it every month. But I had to figure out how to flip it so it could generate more revenue. And that's when I said I'm gonna do rooms. I didn't call it Yellow Block Bed and Breakfast at first. I called it Rent Rooms from Gordy. And I even tell you a funnier story. I put up on the advertisement Gordy, right? My name is Gordon. And some of my friends in high school and my wrestling coach would call me Gordy. And what I would do is, because I only had one cell phone, if I wanted to know if somebody was calling me to rent a room, when I would put my ad up on Craigslist, I would write, ask for Gordy. And at work and where I work and my family would call me Gordon. So I knew if somebody called the phone and said, hello, can I speak to Gordy? I would immediately go into my hotel voice. Hey, how can I help you? You know, because I already knew, because they asked for that name, that was my hotel rent a room name. If they asked for Gordon, it was probably a bill collector or family, right? So that was an example of why I had to reinvent myself, because I only had one phone. I couldn't afford to get I wasn't carrying two phones, but I knew that I had I could be multifaceted in my identity to make sure that I could have a customer service message that was appropriate at that time to market myself. So that would later turn into in 2018, I had been running a house for about 3 years. I was able to travel. Probably about 2016, 2017, I saw the house that was starting to make some money. And things were going okay. I was able to buy my son's sneakers, because for like 3 or 4 years, we couldn't do anything. Because I tell a story how money was so tight that I would, like, as soon as I would make a booking, I would go to the Family Dollar. I would buy new sheets, buy new pillows to put on the beds, because I was really just trying to keep everything sustainable. And then my sons would always say, Dad, don't take our pillows when we were sleeping, because sometimes I would get a call at night for a new booking and I wouldn't have enough pillows. So they would wake up and they were like, look, I had to take your pillow to bring to the house to wash it because I had to have it ready for somebody that was checking in. I mean, things were just that do or die. I didn't have a choice. There was no exit strategy for this not to work, because if 9 guests booked and I only had 7 beds, we had to take a bed from somewhere, right? This is just how real things were in the beginning. And then I started seeing things kind of turn around. I was able to take the kids on a trip. We were able to make some more money. I was able to start to order things online versus running to the dollar store. So I started seeing some indicators that the business was starting to do a little bit better. Guests would call me. I would be able to pay the internet before it was turned off, not when they told me it was turned off. So, you know, these were things, this was part of that progression. I don't want to imply for any second that things were perfect in the beginning. But when there was something wrong and something didn't go right, I acknowledged it quickly. I told guests right away, I'm sorry, I apologize. I was probably the quickest one to give back money, right? If a guest booked and there was something wrong with their experience, they got refunded back a portion of their stay. Because I knew that people who were already coming to stay with me were coming because it was affordable. So money was an issue, right? So if I was to give you back a portion of your booking because something went wrong, I didn't think there was a better way to show my respect for your business. So I was quick to refund money if something didn't go right, which is something I would tell people. If something goes wrong, acknowledge it, honor it, be accountable, and compensate for it immediately if you want to have your business do well. Because if you look at my business on Google reviews, I think I have like a 4.9 rating. If you look on Airbnb, I'm a super host with like a 5-star rating. But I can tell you every experience wasn't 5-star. Everything I did wasn't perfect. But when it wasn't perfect, I made sure the person left their stay feeling perfect, because I would compensate by closing that gap with a refund, a t-shirt, a hat, a pizza, a dozen donuts, whatever it would take to make them feel appreciated, like we all want to feel. I would make sure that happened. So, yeah.
Do you believe right now is a good time to become an entrepreneur and start your own business, knowing that the condition and everything that we're going on right now?
Oh, definitely. I think this is a perfect time to start a business. I think if you want to start a business, this is perfect. I think right now, I know first of all, folks are captive, right? People are home right now, tuned into web-based platforms in ways that we never have been before. We have more time with family right now than we've ever had before. We have more time with ourselves than we've ever had before. I think you guys had talked about this on the previous guest. You have time to read. You have time to research. One thing is one business that did not go out of business, or one business that did not slow down, is the internet. You have more access to more people today than you ever have had in the last probably 40 or 50 years of business previous. You can go on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, you can direct message somebody directly. So if you think right now, this is not the time to start a business, I couldn't disagree with you. I couldn't disagree with you more. I think this is a perfect time to get into a business. I think it's perfect time to research. I think it's perfect time to get restored on what you think is appropriate to move your business forward. And I think you have a lot of opportunities to research and look at where people went wrong. And I think it's a perfect time to, if you're on this platform, if you're listening right now to the Brownsville Minute, then you're in the right space, you're in the right place, because you're hearing questions and you're getting answers from folks who've done it and folks who have been successful and who are being honest about failure and about success. So yeah, the time is perfect. Time is perfect. This is it. Make it happen. Right now, it's always a good time to start a business. It's always a bad time to doubt yourself. So yeah, I think the timing's good. I mean, I wouldn't start a travel business. I wouldn't start, I would be smart about what the business was. But I think another thing Engy had pointed out is you have to find your space. I think a lot of times we think we have to come up with something brand new. No one's ever done it before. No one ever made a shoe like this before. No one ever made a sneaker like this before. No rapper ever sounded like this before. No one ever built a home like this before. When experience tells us that it's the small minor adjustments on existing businesses that tend to draw the most revenue. And folks who know how to do businesses and repeat businesses, they know how to climb into existing business models and find their space. I think the example he gave was the CNA or the certified nurse and assistant business in Brooklyn. We know we have a large number of mothers and grandmothers and aunts who work in the CNA business, right? We know it's a highly regulated business. We know it's a business that our senior population rely on, many folks rely on to generate revenue. Well, I think he had made the point, well, what if someone did create an app to automate or mainstream that business so that the folks who work the business are able to capitalize the most off of it? So I think looking at existing business models, jumping into them and figuring out where you can get your piece of the pie, then you can start your own pizza company, right? You don't have to create an entire new business, because I think sometimes a lot of the regulatory piece, a lot of the regulations have already been established. You just have to figure out how to weave your way through them so that you can get your piece of money, and you can do quite well. I mean, who knew that I could take a house on Quincy and Bedford and turn it into a legal hotel? Who knew that could be an established bed and breakfast in Brooklyn? I didn't wait until I owned, a 200,000 square foot commercial space in downtown Brooklyn with 100 rooms for me to say I want to build what could be a boutique hotel. I took a house that I had that had the right legal C of O, which meant that it was legal for the city, and I turned it into what I thought it could be. So look deep in yourself first before you have to look outside, because most of the time I think God has stored and equipped us with what we need. So hope that helps.
And I also believe that it also has to do with marketing, because a million other people could sell the same product, sell the same web design or the same clothes or whatever that you want to sell, but nobody's going to market like you. Nobody's not going to design. Nobody's not going to do packaging like you. Nobody's not going to have customer service like you. So I also feel like marketing and how you present yourself to people, that also has a lot to do with your business, because a lot of people will say that, oh, I don't want to go into this industry. I don't want to go into this market. I don't want to go into this business because it's a million other people selling the same thing. But in reality is that, yes, it could be a million other people selling the same thing, but what makes you stand out from the rest of the crowd? What makes you stand out from the group of 10, 20, 30 people that are selling the same thing in your industry?
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I agree with you. Rashana, I think you spot on. I mean, look at shows like I look at some of the other Netflix shows like Tiger King, right? Who thought this show could sell at all, right? But it did, right? Who thought? I always think about a guy who owned a food truck. He actually was an old tenant of mine. His name was Chris, and Chris had opened up a food truck on the corner of Quincy and Bedford, right next to the Biggie mural. And this was before the mural was even put up there. This is like back in like 2011 or 12. He was the first person I ever heard say the word. I mean, we saw hot dog trucks and ice cream trucks when we were little, but not really like gourmet food trucks, right? And he was talking about doing a food truck, but he was a little bit too early. So I think timing is important, but I think marketing is everything, right? And how much you're willing to take a risk and how much you're willing to not give up. Chris ended up closing his business because he got hit with a bunch of violations from the city. He quit, he gave up, and he moved out of town. But had Chris stayed, he would have had 10 years of experience in the food truck business, but instead he opted not, no slight on Chris, right? He did what was best for him. But I think he took that risk and I later took that risk and hopefully as you guys as entrepreneurs will later take that risk. But it's timing and it's not accepting the fact that it cannot be done. Everyone is if people are not telling you no, it can't be done, you probably, if everybody you're probably in the wrong space. When people tell you no, that's not going to work, that's going to try harder. Because that means they don't see your vision as clearly as you do, and that means that you have to be the one to motivate yourself. I'm always concerned. I love it when people say, "No, that can't be done. That's impossible." The people I know who've been told they can't do it are the people who go the farthest. So your naysayers or your gas for your engine, those are going to be the people that push you the hardest. Trust me, I can assure you of that. Because I heard many people tell me, you can't do that. What if the city comes? What if they shut you down? Right.
I would say that it's better to take a risk and fail rather than not taking a risk at all and having regret later. Because even if you take the risk and you fail, you can always learn from your mistakes and learn from your failures and just do better next time, rather than just sit down and say, oh, I'm not going to take the risk. And then later on, you see somebody doing the same thing you wanted to do and they're succeeding. They're doing even all the success and everything that you wanted for yourself, but you didn't take the risk. So how would you have known if you would have failed or you would have succeeded if you didn't try?
Absolutely. Yeah, you have to take it. You have to step out on that limb and you have to do research. I think there's enough information available on the internet. There's enough resources available. There's enough stories of folks who have done things. You just have to find those links and make a well-informed decision. There's no reason to make a decision blindly. You just have to do the research. Most businesses have been done before. There's some level of information out there. I think the onus is on us as entrepreneurs to do the research and to still make a decision contrary at times to what we read, because that's their story. That may not be your story. So if your passion is stronger, you will be the story that succeeded where they failed. And I think I certainly saw that with my business. A big push for me, obviously, was Netflix came and casted the show in 2018. That was a game changer to get to be. And I'll be honest, when Netflix first reached out, my answer was no. I was scared. I was afraid. I was already doing okay. We had some level of moderate success. I was like, I'm good. There's no reason to go on Netflix. Why would I go on Netflix and then maybe the city will come and shut me down? Maybe they'll close me, and I would have, tried to be greedy, and then I end up with nothing. Those are common fears that we have, right? Let me just stay comfortable where I'm at. Why would I push myself? Go on Netflix. I'm hearing Airbnb is in the news and it's going to get shut down. Why would I be crazy enough to step out there and take that risk? And I remember talking to close friends of mine and a frat brother who's an architect, and he said, "Do it." He said, "Do it." He said, "You're going to be okay." And that, that goes back to, I think Engy had mentioned having a good network, right? Having people you can trust around you that know more about a topic than you may know, because he's an architect, he's a frat brother. I trusted him, and he said, "I did the research. You're going to be okay." And I said, "Well, if that's the case, you have to help me with this." And of course, he charged me, and I said, "Okay." I paid him exactly what he asked for, and he guided me on the architectural side of this process, because we had needed an architect to do the show to make these renovations. And I told Netflix, I said, if we do this project, he has to be the architect, because I trust him and I know that he's going to guide me, because he told me that it could work. So I think that speaks to having a good support system. And when you're afraid about something, you know, it's okay to be scared, but to consult with people who can properly advise you. You will be surprised what you miss out on because you don't ask the right questions. And in our community, I think sometimes we don't ask the right questions because of our ego. We want to act like we know. I got this. I'm good. I don't need that. You don't have to tell me nothing. I got this already. Other communities, folks are not inclined to be that quiet about asking for information. And I think that, or worst case, which is the worst thing we do, is we have the information and we don't share it. We don't do platforms like this to tell you what's possible, right? Say yes to every opportunity that comes your way. You can always say no later, right? It's hard. It's easier to turn a yes into a no than to tell somebody no and then later turn it into a yes, right? If your friends say, "Hey, look, we're going out tonight. We have 10 free movie tickets," and you say, "No, I'm not going," and then you call an hour before the movie and say, "Hey, I want to go," the chances are that ticket is already gone. But if you say, "Yeah, I want to go. I'm gonna be there. In fact, I'm bringing popcorn. I'm gonna bring some extra Kit Kats in my sneaker for y'all because I'm not paying for the Kit Kats at the movie theater," they're gonna hold your seat for you and your ticket until 8:59 p.m. if the show starts at 9. You can tell them at 9, "I'm not gonna make it," but you want to leave opportunities and seats available for yourself, you know, appropriately speaking, right? Or you tell another friend to go, but say yes to opportunities. Don't be so quick to say no. Say yes, I'll do it. I'll take it. I want to do the show. I want the job. I want to come to that college. I want to come to that class, and say no later. Because then you leave yourself a gap of time to change your mind. Once you say no, you've closed yourself. You're no longer on the list. Make sense? I hope that helps.
Yes. One thing that I wanted to was that you have said that the biggest motivation should be yourself when starting a business. And I think what I've seen from like on social media and people who started their business, a lot of people like to compare businesses and try to put each other down. And I feel like that's not the best way to go at like helping other people out. I feel like even if like, yes, you guys are doing something similar, like how you said, everybody has their own way how they want to see their business go. And I think if you have the motivation within yourself and you don't let other people from outside, like negative comments come in, that's where you can build up your own business and try to not let other people compare your business to theirs, where, you know, just to not compare each other would be a good thing in the business world.
Yeah, because Sean, I couldn't agree with you more. I know when I first started Yellow Block Bed and Breakfast, the Quabbin Mansion, which is a landmark, historical landmark in Brooklyn, well-structured, well-run bed and breakfast in Brooklyn that's Black-owned. I've never had the luxury of staying there. I've just recently had some communications with the owner. Whenever somebody would say, you know, bed and breakfast Brooklyn, are you a Quabbin? I would say, no, I'm not their Quabbin Mansion. They're on a whole nother level. I think it's important that we pay respect to businesses that came before us, and that we show them a level of admiration and we salute them, right? Particularly in our community, right? Because I think you're right. I think we've grown accustomed to wanting to be in that competitive space. And I think it's a mistake. Few people know that the founder of Puma and Adidas were brothers, right? They were two German brothers who had worked in a shoemaking family. One started Adidas, one started Puma. But I've never heard Puma and Adidas put each other down, right? And I think that we have to learn from that, because businesses that come before us, even in my professional work full-time, I'm actually in DC right now for my full-time job, and we won a contract from another company that had it before. And sometimes there's some discussion about how good that company was versus how good we are now. And I'm always quick to say, you know what? They were good for the time that they had the business. We're here now, and because of their work, we're able to do more. And I think that when you look at business from that standpoint, that those who came before you have laid the groundwork for you to be better. Jay-Z would never be a billionaire if KRS-One didn't lose money. He had to lose that money, and he had to get cheated on contracts for Jay-Z and Puffy to know how to do what they're doing right now. So to try to discredit artists or folks who come before us in certain business sectors is a big mistake, because they dealt what they dealt with at that time in that climate. And because of their failures, we were able to have successes. One thing I can tell you for sure, rappers who come out 15 to 20 years from now will be two-time billionaires compared to the billion that Jay-Z and Puffy have today, because they would have learned from the mistakes that they made. They won't make bad basket. They won't buy into basketball franchises and not make the best financial decisions at that time. But Jay-Z had to do that in order to set himself up and prepare him for his decisions later that will make his family even more generational wealth. So I think that's being honest about it. And I think, Kishana, it was good you brought that up, because I think that's something I would love for us to take away from this, that those who come before us are building blocks for our success. They're not to be, you don't have to diss somebody to be the best. In fact, if you're really good, you stay quiet. I don't think Michael Jordan during his career ran around and said he was better than everybody else. He just proved it. And then later his career demonstrated that.
Right. Okay, so August is known as the Black Business Month. Do you believe it is important to support Black-owned businesses?
Oh, absolutely. I think if we can keep resources and dollars within the Black community, I think it's important. I think it's equally as important for Black businesses to be good stewards of business and to be responsible and to provide the best of services, products, and merchandise. I'll be the one to say it. I think sometimes just being Black and doing business is not enough, right? And I have to tell you this, nothing makes me feel better. I get a lot of hits on social media. I get a lot of inquiries, and people say, you know what? They say Gordy, because that's the name I put on the phone, and that's the name that they put on the show for Netflix. They say, you're a Black-owned business with your sons. We want to support you. And I say, good, because I want the business. And then I say, you know what? But I have to make sure that their business experience is even better, right? Because it means the most to us to be a Black-owned business, and it means as much, even more, to be a good business. Because I know that there's been times where people who didn't look like me may have picked to do business with us and may have said, you know what, I really don't want to stay there, and I really don't want to give him my money, but the price point is good and the 5-star reviews are so strong, we can't say no to this. And I think that to be sustainable in business, we have to deliver a better product than what people expect. We don't have the luxury right now of being average. With what we have going on in the country, with what, we have civil unrest, we have police brutality and police murders at an unprecedented rate. We have to rise to an occasion that's so high that may not even be high enough. But that is the level that we have to operate on right now, and our children have to operate on to shift the narrative about what we have going on with ourselves. And I'm not talking about for other people to look at us differently, but I'm talking about for us to believe in ourselves. I want your business because I'm giving you the best price at the best stay, and you're getting the most out of your stay when you come stay at this house. And I'm happy you're Black, and I'm happy you're white, and I'm happy that you chose me to do business, but I want to make sure that I'm delivering a quality product. End game quality has to be there, because I may not be around forever. But I want the business to be sustainable beyond my time on this earth. That's true.
So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty when starting a business and deciding to become an entrepreneur. So how do you manage fear?
It's real. You better, you're going to have a little trouble falling asleep. You're going to wake up, thinking about your anxieties. I think that's very real. I think if you don't have fear and you're in business, something's wrong. If you're not scared, something's wrong. If you're not worried, something's wrong. You should be worried. You should have fear. Because I think somewhere between fear and anxiety and concern comes creativity. That's when you push yourself to come up with the best concepts. When you're down to -10 in your checking account, people are coming, you got $40 worth of sheets and laundry to do. That's when your mind is clicking. That's when you're going to come up with a better solution. Sometimes when you get comfortable and you stay in your comfort zone and you're not afraid and you get so lax that everything is going so well, that's when you get it's when you get your head popped off, because at that point, you're no longer grinding at the same rate. You're not looking for ways to be creative. You're not looking for ways to be innovative. And somewhere between the creativity and the innovation is what's going to keep you on top. It's not enough that you mop every obviously between every guest and every room you have to sanitize and clean, and you have to make sure everything is perfect. The minute you drop that guard and you don't do it, that's going to be the minute you pay. So you better be worried on every business transaction you do. You should be worried that it goes 100% well. Be worried until you get the review. Be worried until you get the next customer that comes in. So I think fear and anxiety is part of business. If you can't handle fear and anxiety, then business is not for you, not successful business. Because I think anybody who tell you they've been successful have had a lot of failures. You just tend to hear about the things that worked well. Yeah.
So earlier you mentioned that you have three
Yep.
sons. So how would you say being an entrepreneur affected your family life?
I'll tell you, it's had an impact, right? Because there was a time where I would take the kids would come. It's funny, they would come to that. They'd say, Dad, you leave us in the car when you go to Home Depot. Or I'm like, carry this gallon of paint, pick this up. I don't feel like doing it. So I started finding that all of our Saturdays and Sundays, they were at the house with me. We were doing some type of work if the house was empty. We were doing laundry. I looked at their baby pictures when they were growing, and now they're 18, or they'll be 18. My son will be 18 Sunday, the big one. He's a freshman at Morehouse. The middle one is 13, and the little one is 7. And I started looking at the pictures when they were little, and they were always like in the laundromat, or they were always sweeping, or they were always mopping. And I'm like, wait a minute. And a friend of mine, she said to me, she's Jamaican and her family owned a restaurant. She said, you know what, Gordon, every time I talk to you, your kids are working with you. She said, I remember my parents growing up, and me and my brother always sat in the car while they worked. She said, try to do more stuff with them, because that time with them is so precious that you don't want it to be all about work, because your dreams may not be their dreams. And so I think early on it impacted, because as a single father, it impacted the amount of time that I could spend with them, because I said, look, we have to make this work. I want to leave something for you that will be a legacy for you guys. When I started making a little bit more money, it gave me options to do more things with them. It allowed me to be able to pay to put my big son in an engineering program in the summer. It allowed me to buy him new winter coats in the winter when they outgrew the old coats, because before I couldn't afford to do that. When my son's boots went from an 8.5 to a 9, I could get him a size 9.5 instead of him wearing his 8.5 because they were too tight. So the additional money allowed me to do more with them. It didn't, I don't know if it changed our relationship in terms of, they never asked for much because I didn't have much, but I think it gave me some comfort to know that I could give them more and give their mother more and to provide more. So I think that gave me some level of comfort as the years went on. That's how, and then I think also too, it allowed me to show them that you have to have different streams of income. I still work full-time, a full-time job, but having the bed and breakfast and having the Yellow Block Community Development Group as a non-for-profit, I've purchased a second property in DC that I'm renovating now. It's given me some confidence, some personal confidence to have some other revenue streams that I know that in my time be on this earth, they'll have some things left for them that will give them a jump start, like we know that other communities and other groups of people have had for their children. So establishing more resources and more money and wisdom, right? Because you can leave all the money in the world and we can give our children everything, but if we don't give them common sense, a sense of self, a sense of their spiritual responsibility, their relationship with God, their responsibility to their community, then it doesn't mean anything. They'll just leave money and they'll go crazy. So I think those things matter more. And if you have some resources, then you can fund and fuel things that make sense for your family and for your community. So let's hope that's what happens. I'm still trying to figure it out.
In my previous segment, I was talking to Mr. Lamour about financial literacy and young adults. Do you believe that I was talking about financial literacy and young adults, and there's a lot of young people that want to become entrepreneurs and they don't know how to become entrepreneur, or even if entrepreneurship is even for them. So what advice would you give to a young person that said that they want to start a business and they don't know where to go or how to start?
Well, I know for me, when I was in high school, I sold lollipops. I used to buy like a bag of Charms lollipops for 69 cents. I think they used to come 8 in a bag. I would sell them a quarter each. That was $2. I'd make $1.40 off of each bag. I used to buy the 10-pack of Double Mint gum. I know now gum is like $1 a pack. Back then it used to be a quarter a pack. I buy a 10-pack for 99 cents and sell them in school for a quarter and make $1.50 off of every 10. Hustling starts now, right? I don't know too many people who relaxed when they were 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20 and started grinding when they were 25. Doesn't work like that. if you want to be an entrepreneur, start now. If you're in school, go, buy a dozen hats, take them to school, sell them on a rainy day. Bring umbrellas to school. People like to get their hair done. Bring hats, bring the plastic bags to school and sell them. You have to figure out what people are not getting and bring it into your school, legitimately, that you can sell to cut that market. If you see the corner store is selling before school every day, is selling Pepsis for $1.50, take them to school and sell them for $1. Cut the corner store, right? Because we want to save money. If you see the corner store selling a certain type of candy at school and you in 8th or 9th grade, cut the corner store and get it and cut it right at the store, because everybody wants to save money. And trust me, they're paying rent. The guys who run the stores are from Yemen. They're sending money back to their countries, which is nothing wrong with that. Cut them right at the store and let kids in school know you can cut that. So I would say to any young person who wants to be an entrepreneur, start now. You're not just going to wake up at the age of 22 and decide, you know what? I got this nice idea. I think I'm going to make something happen. I think most hustling starts when you're young. You feel it now. And if you feel it now, get to it now. And fail while the stakes are low. If you buy a pack of double mint and you buy 10 packs and you only sell 6, chew the other 4. You're going to be all right. But it's better to fail now when the stakes are lower than to fail when you're making $50,000 and $100,000 and $200,000 per year. The time to fail in practice, because you'll get comfortable failing now at a young age and you'll laugh about it. But when you get older, you may not bounce back quite the same. So if any young person, sell cell phone minutes if you got an unlimited plan. I was in Cuba. I went to Cuba, and I'll never forget it. I saw people in Cuba selling. The way they do phones in Cuba is you have to buy cards to buy minutes to make a phone call. There were people in Cuba buying cards and selling minutes off their phones for other people to use their phone in a square for Wi-Fi access. So, we don't have that problem here because we can go anywhere in New York City and get a free Wi-Fi signal. In Cuba, they don't have that luxury. So this is hustling. This is grinding. I went to Ghana. I saw people selling used socks in Ghana. He's making money. He had a whole tray of used socks, and he's making money because he knew that there was a market for used socks. So I think that it's easy for us to get comfortable in the United States. It's easy for us to get comfortable and a little bit lax. But I think globally, if we want to compete, we have to know that people all over the world are grinding. They are not playing any games. So if you don't know, then check online and see what people are doing to make money globally. And I think you'll realize how much opportunity we have in places like Brooklyn to get money. There's money everywhere. You just have to figure out how you want to get it, and legal money, legitimate money, right? And you can do it, but we get very comfortable. We're in a city with free internet access. You can go any place and find free Wi-Fi in New York. You can find free lunch anywhere in New York. You can find cold water to drink anywhere in New York City. You can get lunch any place. You can get a winter coat just about anywhere in New York City for free. I know, trust me, I know for sure. So if you're comfortable and you're lax, it's because too many things are in front of you that make it too easy. But if you want to get your piece, you better find it because it's out there. And New York has the resources.
So what are your future plans for your business?
To grow, to get the DC property. We're about 70% of the way through this right now. So what I want to do with the space here in DC, we want to turn it into like a social use space. So for example, if a group like the Brownsville Minute wants to come into the District of Columbia and participate in something like the anniversary of the March tomorrow, you could stay at the house and make a donation. So I think to do good business, you have to be socially responsible. I think that the two can work tandem. I don't think it's not just money. I think you can do good business, you can make money, and I think you can be socially responsible. So my goal is to grow the brand, continue to expand Yellow Block in the non-for-profit space, continue to expand Yellow Block in the for-profit space through the B&B in Brooklyn, to continue to get involved with different projects that are financially smart and that allow us to do things that impact social change in our communities, but still make some money. I think sometimes we think we have to help the community, but we can't make money. You guys had talked about that before with Engy on making sure you monetize what you do. Facebook does it; they sell ad space, and to make sure that everything you touch you want to figure out if there's a way for you to get some type of optimal return on your investment so it generates revenue, so it becomes sustainable. And that is my goal, to be sustainable and to do smart business decisions that are socially responsible. Right. And grow, get more buildings, buy more assets, build and grow, and be involved in more projects that generate revenue.
To wrap up our segment, where can we find your business online?
Yeah, you can find me online if you go to Yellow Block B&B. On Facebook, it's Yellow Block B&B. You Google Yellow Block Bed and Breakfast. I hope folks go on and watch the show on Netflix. The name of the show is Stay Here. We're show number 4, Brooklyn Brownstone. Watch all the shows. It's about optimizing value in the vacation rental market. And we were the Brooklyn show that was picked. And you know, I'm available if folks. I'll put my information in the chat as well. If folks want to reach out and ask any questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. I want to thank Miss Anita and the Brownsville Minute for bringing me on and to give me an opportunity. Thank you, Rashana and Kashana, for your excellent questions, and for giving me an opportunity to tell my story a little bit and be a motivator for folks who want to do the same thing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So I am blown away by the conversation that we had.
Thank you so much, Jackie.
Really very informative. I'm just checking here to see if there's any questions from the group that is on our live chat. And so there was a comment earlier about feeling really inspired about this this conversation, about you know, being encouraged about what it means to be an entrepreneur. I actually learned some new things myself about real estate, because my business is not real estate yet. It's on my to-do list, but it's definitely something that this has been like an eye-opening conversation. So one of the things that I personally wanted to find out about, so you talked about your journey when you first started. And a lot of times when we, as entrepreneurs, we, you know, people think that things happen like really overnight. You know, so what are your days like in terms of like being an entrepreneur? So you actually have multiple streams of income where you have like a full-time, diversifying your income stream. But prior to that, what are your hours like, if you know, doing the entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah, so that's a great question, right? Because how do you juggle all this and work full-time? So my full-time work, I work for Core Services Group. So I'm the Vice President of Community Relations. And we have so many different projects going on between New York and DC that that's why I'm in DC now. That's what also prompted me to buy the house in DC. I said, I'm here a lot for business. I'm going back and forth. It would probably be wise to do business where I'm already working, right? You know, kind of make the best of the space. So my days are early. They start off really, really early. Now that the house is up and running, I don't spend quite as much time at the B&B. You know, the kids are older now. My oldest son's in college. The middle one is in, he's now in 8th grade, going into 8th grade. He's in 8th grade. He'll be in 8th grade next week. So the time management was tough in the beginning, because I would get off my full-time work and then I would work until maybe like 1 o'clock in the morning making beds and doing laundry. Now that things are a little bit better and things are a little bit more up and running, it's more sustainable. So what I would say to what the time is like is you won't sleep much. You know, I didn't get a lot of sleep. I sometimes still don't get a lot of sleep because I'm trying to juggle so much. But I do believe that the sacrifices now will, God willing, pay off later. So this is just my philosophy. As I approach 50 years old, I'm like, work really, 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 really hard now. And then God willing, if I'm here at 55, if I'm here at 60, then I'll be able to relax a little bit more then. because I believe that it's best to try to increase some folks say this, I'm not sure how true this is, that some of our best earning years are between 45 and 55 or 60. Hence why most people retire by 62 or 65. So part of me wants to believe that if I grind real hard now, when I get a little bit older, I can sit back and enjoy. You know, I'm a little selfish too, because I want to be able to enjoy. I hope my kids get married young and have children young so I can enjoy grandchildren. But I know that if they have a lot of debt and they don't have access to resources, that will impact how they make those decisions. And I'm selfish in that if they have enough money and they can do enough, then maybe they can get married younger, because they don't have to worry. A lot of times we don't get married young because like, I can't afford it. I don't want to start a family yet because I can't afford it. And especially in our community, we say, well, I don't want to have kids yet because I don't have the money. Because many of us grew up and saw our mothers and our fathers struggle without enough money. So I'm figuring if I can acquire more, then maybe they can start families younger and I can be a grandfather earlier. Not too early, but you know, earlier. So I know I went on a tangent, but I think for now, your time is tough. Time is tough to juggle.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. I have a 5-year-old CEO that I report into. And it's not, you know, there are wonderful benefits, but the key thing that I want to highlight between what Engy mentioned and also what you spoke about, Mr. Jackson, is about creating options and opportunities. And it becomes like really important, especially in the space where I sit and thinking about where I've come from, is about now I have a little bit more options. Like I can choose to go to certain places and be able to engage and to support and do businesses. I can choose to volunteer my time because, you know, I have my own business, right? So I have the flexibility to be able to make different choices. So for me, becoming an entrepreneur became about those two things, really having, you know, again, the time is really, you know, you're working to your point, and you explain it is a process, you know, in terms of building your business. But the fact that I have, you know, the option right now to be able to spend time in a virtual space and be able to capitalize in a virtual space is what's now working for me in my business. So it's something to really to think about. And encouraging having the multiple income streams. We cannot emphasize that enough, and supporting one another, and make sure we investing within our communities as well. So I wanted to just offer to see if you had any wrap up thoughts before I bring on my next guest, one of my other students. And, you know, I'm very thankful that you took the time out of your busy schedule to come and support these young people.
Sure. No, thank you. And I said thank you to everyone for allowing me to come on. And I think you could not have put it better. Work 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs. In fact, I'll tell you this, and to your point about having different revenue streams and different streams of income, you will always sleep easier, and you can never be fired from a job if you have 2 other ones, right? You can never lose a job if you have different streams of income. In fact, I don't think I can't remember the last time I've had one stream of income or one job. I used to work from 8 to 4, then 4 to 12. And if I needed to go on the weekends, I would do that too. So do it while you can. Do it while your body is sustainable and you're young enough and you have the energy to do it. Because when you get a little bit older, 10 o'clock bedtime becomes more appealing, right? You know, working 4 to 12 now, I'm like, you must be crazy. You know, it gets harder, right? So that's just being honest. So I would say to the young people, and also to pick your circle wisely. Pick who you hang with wisely. If your friends are whack at 15, 16, 17, and 18, they'll probably be whack at 26, 27, and they'll be whacker at 30s. I'm telling you straight up, pick your friends wisely. And they're not producing and they're coming up short now. I'm not saying, you know, they're going to be bosses and they're going to be people you hire. And you will make that decision now. Right? I don't know that many friends of mine who were whack when they were 16 and 15 and just got dope when they hit 30. I don't know that many. In fact, I'm thinking about it right now, I don't know any. But I know my friends who were ahead of the curve at 18 and 19 were way ahead of the curve at 28. And they were even further at 38 and 48. So if you can't trust them now, they're not reliable now. They don't come through now. They talk about your back behind your back now. They will double down and the stakes will get higher. Right now, you might lose a few likes on the gram. You might lose a friend on Facebook. later you may lose a $50,000 contract in something bigger. So know when to cut those ties in a healthy way. And trust me, your load will get lighter and you will have more space in your inbox for more good information than you will for nonsense. So I'll leave it on that note, and I want to thank you guys again.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. We look forward to, working together on other projects. Don't know, what collaborations we can do, but definitely just keep us in mind. You're always welcome to come back to the Brownsville Minute to come and support. And we want to thank you for taking time out of your space. So thank you.
Bye-bye, guys. Bye. Thank you. Good luck in school, too.
So at this time, I want to bring on one of my students, another one of my students, Miss Naima, who will close us out for her segment. And we want to thank you for, pretty much supporting this journey. So I'll have Naima say a few words. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Naima. I want to thank Mr. Gordon for supporting the effects. I don't know what else to say. You can follow Yellow Block BNB. Also, even on Instagram, at the same thing.
So I actually want to take a moment to thank all of the students who participated in the program. I want to thank you all for your courage, for being able to come out and support this. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Please keep in touch. I want to thank personally, BCJC for allowing and trusting me to be able to have these youth come on and to be able to do this type of work. The Brownsville Minute is a community platform where we try to bring on and have and allow for opportunities for everyone to come on and share their story and also to participate. So I want to personally thank you for allowing the youth to lead, because when they lead, sometimes it allows us to listen and to hear things from a different perspective. So I want to say salute to you all, ladies, Rashana, Kishana, and Naima. I'm sending you my virtual kisses. Thanking you so much for your courage and your time. And I want to say, woohoo! Great way to wrap up December with the Brownsville Minute. So I'm going to send you your virtual kisses. Take good care and so long.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, take good care. So, what a wonderful show. You didn't see much of me, but you know what I am going to do is do like just friendly reminders. Please be sure to complete the census. That's still something that's very important. Please be sure, to participate actively in our political activities that are happening. It has been a very robust summer, past few months for us all. But again, I really want to take the opportunity to thank you all for supporting our young folks on this particular special edition of the Brownsville Minute. We could not have done it without you. I actually want to do just a few shout outs, because oftentimes we don't, take the moment to really thank those who allowed for opportunities. These young women just happen to be young women, was very nervous, but they showed up and allowed us to learn from them. So I want to shout them out. Send them a lot of prayers and blessings on their journey, because, they had the courage to come onto this platform. So salute to them on their journey. I particularly want to shout out the program director, Miss Iona. Salute to you. Salute to the program director, Daron Johnston. I really want to shout you all out, because, you all allow for these students to be entrusted with a stranger, and allowed me to be able to do this with them. And it's scary for us all, but we all collectively will support each other and making sure that they have the tools and resources needed to be successful. And so on that note, please be sure to follow us all of these wonderful organizations that are a part of this particular community. We have a number of projects that are happening, namely as it relates directly to economic mobility. So please be sure to follow the Youth Design Center, BCJC _Brooklyn, Community Board 16, Jobs First NYC, and CBEDC, and also 11375 as we continue to work and support all efforts within the community of economic growth and economic mobility. So I want to thank you all for supporting this particular special episode, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. I'm sending you virtual kisses. Please stay safe. Please stay sane. Make the best of the remainder of this summer, and I'm sending you all virtual hugs and kisses. Thank you. Until next time. Take good care.